there. Welcome to the Make It Visible podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Kuei. I am a visibility and marketing coach, and this is our special spot for female coaches who might be feeling a little bit lost in the crowd, especially if you're introverted. We're here to help you to stand out, so join us as we share stories, tips, and fun chat that will help you shine. Whether you are new or perhaps you've been coaching for a while, this is going to be your go-to place to be seen and heard. So get comfy and grab your coffee. Let's get started. Okay, everyone, and I am so excited. It is my pleasure to introduce you my guest today, Heather Campbell, who is an entrepreneur, brand strategist, creative problem solver, marketing sherpa, and a Pearl Jam fan. I know Heather from a community that we both connected in, and Heather works with big thinkers, big heart, messy-minded creative to design marketing and messaging without compromising their awesomeness. She is just an awesome human being. I have such a great pleasure meeting Heather, and I am so happy that she's in my space. So without further ado, let me bring her out, Heather Campbell.
Oh, hello, Michelle. Thank you so much. I feel the same way about you. I think you're absolutely incredible. And I'm glad I know you. I'm glad you're in my world.
Me too. And I remember the first day I met you, it was last year. We were all at the LC Live here in Palm Springs. So I'm in California and we were both in Palm Springs. And you walk up to me and you gave me your business card. When I turned, it had different name. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who is this woman? I need to know her because everything that you do is just so attractive to me. I'm just naturally drawn to you. Well, actually, last month, I reached out and I was like, Heather, would you be interested to come and speak at the speaker bureau at Toastmasters? And you were so gracefully and graciously agree to it. And all our members are just so happy to have you there. Today, you are on this show because I felt that whatever that connection was and all the great thing and expertise that you're offering to your clients and to your audience, I really believe that my coaches in my community, they can really also benefit because a lot of them are early on their journey and they're struggling to get their message out. They're struggling to create that online appearance with their branding, right? So first of all, how did you get started?
Oh, well, there are two paths led to my branding and marketing. One is I'm the third oldest of 9 kids. We grew up in a house that was built in 1906 that had one bathroom for all those kids and never any hot water. So you became really good at marketing and positioning and negotiating and advocating to make sure that you were in one of the hot water slots. It was just so funny. So you learned great negotiation skills. And what's really funny is so many of my siblings were all in sales or marketing in some way, shape, or form. And I'm like, of course we are. We learned at a really young age. And then I always just knew I was going to be involved in advertising. When I was a really young kid, I just was always really fascinated with ads and commercials. And again, one of the older kids out of a big family. And so you get put to work to help out around the house. And my favorite thing was to vacuum. And my mom had this old Eureka vacuum cleaner. If you vacuumed over the cord, it would suck it up and you would have to pull it out. And so then she got this brand new Hoover vacuum cleaner. And I remember vacuuming and it vacuumed over its cord and it didn't pick up the cord. And I'm like, this is revolutionary. So I'm in first grade and this is in 1971. So a long time ago. And so you would storyboard, you would get these 11 by 17 pieces of construction paper and you would fold it into 6 and you would storyboard. And I storyboarded ad after ad after ad for the Hoover vacuum cleaner. And my positioning was actually really good. It was like Hoover vacuum. It picks up everything but its own cord. And so I always loved writing. I loved design. I was always one of those people that I love to make things happen. I'm also super curious. I don't like not knowing things. And so branding just was the most beautiful place for me to land. And so my indoctrination into real legit professional branding happened in the late 1990s and early 2000s, where I worked for a company, a national apartment company, where we created the first national brand in apartments. So if anyone has ever leased an apartment online, or you got instant credit check, and that there's a lot of flexible lease terms, those kinds of things, I was all part of the team that brought that innovation to the industry. And we managed a national company of more than 4,000 associates. And we had just this most amazing brand. And we really transformed the entire real estate industry, which is really cool. So it's that outward appearance, of course, and the outward impact, but internally, the efficiencies, how much easier it is to make decisions, how you save just time, money, and major sanity when you have such a clear idea of who you are and how you show up in the market. And so that's the kind of thing that makes me want to climb up on my roof and shake my fist at the sky, that I want everyone to know is this is the best starting point, because it gives you a good 2 feet on the ground. I know where I'm going perspective, which is just such a beautiful place to be, especially in the waterbed ground that is starting your own business.
Yeah.
Like, are you just like,
I'm
what?
just mind blown. There's so much. And I remember the Eureka vacuum. I remember the Hoover vacuum. It always bothers me to suck up the cord and you always get stuck with it. It's just so annoying. But Heather, so why branding? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, I just need to have a website. I just need to have this and I'll be fine. And so for me personally, it didn't occur to me later that in order to get the client, in order to attract the client, in order to attract the right people into my world, I need to figure out somehow what is my brand. But most people, they don't start out their business thinking that I need a brand or I need to be the brand. So
Well, and a lot of people think too, they're just like, I am not the Target Corporation or I'm not Coca-Cola. Like I'm a coach in Dubuque, Iowa, who just wants to help families get along better, you know? And the thing is that branding is really highly just so misunderstood, first of all. So a lot of people think it's their logo or their brand palette, and that's their brand identity or their graphic identity, but that's not their brand. Or they think it's their brand story. And your brand story is such an important part of your brand, but it is also not your brand. So the brand truly is, it's honestly so much more strategic and essential to who you are and how you compete, because we are in business after all. Of course, we love to hear those stories about like, oh, I was just a mom. I have 11 children. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to teach people how to fold clothes or something. And then they have like $1 million business. And you're like, what happened? How did that happen? And so you're just like, I don't even understand it. And so those stories are so few and far between, because really what happens is the best brands and the brands that we all know and love provide a really consistent experience. So it's so much more than your logo. That just helps people find you. And it's your story helps people to relate to you as a human being as part of that business. But a brand is what's going to tell you, how do you show up in the market? What makes you, Michelle, you're not the only coach or public speaker in this world, right? But you are the only you out here. So there's a way that even if you and I took the same course and we were teaching the same coaching and we had the same indoctrination into the same coaching program, we would still have a different way of teaching and different results, because we're just two completely different people. And that's just how it works. And so you want to understand who you are, how you show up, how you're different from the other guys out there, and how you uniquely achieve the results that you do. And once you really understand that, everything just becomes so much easier, because you have an understanding of, you just have something to react to, right? That's the best thing. But I have so many students and clients who are just terrified to even look to see who else is out there, because it's so like unnerving for them. That's why I like ChatGPT and AI so much. So a brand is really going to be that marker in the market, and it's going to be the sum of your customers' experience with you. When I say brand, what is a well-known brand that you really like?
I like Tiffany.
Oh, wow.
I like Tiffany. And there's a reason for it, because
do tell, fancy pants. Yeah.
Right? Because when you walk into Tiffany, it's very high, luxurious, elegant, right? There are certain elements that Tiffany just attracts to me, and everything is simple style. There's not fancy. There's not like glittering. And it's not like one of those like romantic brand that's like all on you, right? So it's more of the elegant style, the simplicity of how they show up. So it is an experience as I walked into the store. We have like similar branding archetype. So
Tiffany is such a beautiful example. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because Tiffany is all about consistency, right? So you have an expectation for Tiffany that you're going to walk in. There's going to be 2 security guards. always like right there, right?
Always.
Letting you know.
Yep.
How are people going to be dressed at Tiffany?
They're all dressed very proper, very with suits, right? Black suits, walking around, and very polite, very tentative, always.
Yeah. So my daughter got a really big bonus at work at the end of last year. And she's like, oh, and I'm always like, you got to treat yourself if you get a bonus. And it was enough that she could buy something pretty nice. And I said, you know what, you got to get a nice piece of jewelry and you should get something from Tiffany. And so we're not in there buying like a $100,000 ring. Like we're buying something that someone got a really nice bonus. That's what I like too, is that there's an accessible point there to some extent, right? You can get something that's crazy expensive, but also like a few $100s as well. And what else do they do at Tiffany? What about the packaging?
I love the turquoise color, the ribbon, right? Very elegant, very simple style. You remember their color, you remember their style, you remember that it always comes in very sturdy. It's a sturdy box, right? It's tiny, but it's always in a certain shape, like square, and the packaging, everything. Okay, so I think after this interview, I'm going to go to Tiffany and check out what they have.
Yeah, you should, because you know what? You should treat yourself. And they have things that are only a couple $100s. So maybe Christmas has come early to Michelle. So that's a really great example because they deliver a really consistent experience, and they have for over 100 years, right? And they've never, ever, ever lost their elegant edge. And believe me, there are people in the boardroom who are just like, hold on a second. People don't have money right now, and we got to maybe use some cheaper boxes. And someone on their branding team is like, absolutely not. We cannot compromise the overall experience of getting a Tiffany box and just opening that ribbon. And what I love about this too is how it's nothing fancy. It's completely scalable. It's replicatable. You just need to know how to tie a good bow on there, right? And so they take such good care of you. And so we all have these little Tiffany stores within us, right? Actually, 2 years ago on April Fool's, Tiffany did something that they said that they were changing their color from blue to this bright yellow. And people almost, can I say a swear? They almost beeped their pants. Like, I mean, just went wild. Like, what are you doing? And talk about like brand loyalty, brand recognition, to the point that millions of people were just like, no, you cannot do that. And so that is because they do not change. They know what they do better than anyone else, which is curate beautiful, high-end, impeccable jewelry. And then they deliver an entire experience around it. Like,
even the package messaging is very customized. I remember I went in and got my necklace fixed, and it was entire beautiful experience that you walked in. They treat you like if this is your first time walking into the store, purchasing their order. They want to make sure every single detail has been taken care of, customized to you.
Right. And it's that personalization. They just really hit on all points. That does not happen by accident. So we all think of like the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton. It's actually the Ritz-Carlton as being the fanciest hotel in the world. I got to stay there for a business conference once. I was on the working team. Okay, so this is incredible. So we go into this unbelievable conference room in Washington, D.C. We're having this big investor conference for my company. And they have these folios where they have memorized all the faces of our executive team. So when they see them, they can say, oh, hello, Mr. Sellers, or hello, Ms. Hamilton. And I'm like, oh, you guys are amazing. And then because I was on the working team, when I came into my room, they had this amazing basket for me that was like, you're going to be working so hard in this meeting. It was absolutely the most decadent thing. But it was so on point and so unexpected and so personal. And just, they would not ever compromise on those kinds of things. So one of the things about Ritz-Carlton is they have 21 service tenants. So every time you come into work every day, the entire organization covers the same service tenant. So you go through all 21. I don't know what 365 is divided by 21. I'm sure somebody can tell us, but that's a lot of times like you're really hitting on those company values. And that's how they have that kind of consistent experience where you can go to a Ritz-Carlton in Chicago, Illinois, or a Ritz-Carlton in, I don't know, Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, and consistency throughout. Yeah,
exactly. So that branding gives you that grounding where you're able to get a proof of concept out into the market, understand what is my process, what is my methodology, what kind of results can I reliably deliver, all businesses start off this way.
Yeah.
And then you grow from there. Then you're just like, well, if I can do this really well, then I could do this or you just sort of go from there. But so often what I see is people are like, oh, I have this idea. Then they put together a very, very janky website. Then they start marketing it without really understanding their brand positioning or their competitive positioning, who they are on the inside, because you have a way of doing things. Like, that's my favorite part of, like, do I have the best job in the entire world? I literally look for people's awesomeness and then I get to turn it back to them and connect it to their business in a way that they're like, oh, no way, that's me. Oh, I see that. I have the best job to help people sit up taller in their business. And it's just by having that context. And a lot of it is how you're different, which not how you're the best. And so how you're different is what makes you double take worthy. Totally.
Yeah. And when you're talking about like how you put up some website, it's very chunky and you put it out, I was like thinking that was me like a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Struggling with that, right? So I was your avatar in a way because I was throwing website together and just hoping that, hey, I just want to get clients and I'm just gonna put something together.
Yes. I know. It literally breaks my heart, but continue. Yes.
Does your life coaching business attract the right clients to you? You're finding yourself stuck and not sure where to begin, how to start in order to attract and connect with your dream clients. This idea of posting on social media about your coaching business is just so overwhelming that you find yourself getting all caught up in questioning, what type of content should I post? What do I need to say in order to get them to stop the score and get more clients? Imagine you can write, speak, create any messages that resonate with your potential dream client without sacrificing your uniqueness. Having the flow with your words, the language that you use that makes yourself memorable to your audience who will naturally be drawn to you. And at the end of the day, creating a marketing style that attracts your dream client who feels aligned so that you can build stronger bonds, happier clients, and closing more leads. I completely understand, and that is why I created this simple guide to start a conversation that would inspire people to take action and transform the way that you market your coaching business, all in 5 simple, easy to follow steps. So head over to coremessage.attractclientthroughstorytelling.com today to grab your copy. It is time to claim your uniqueness, my friend. So one of the things I've noticed that a lot of people are getting into this AI world. Yes. And so even with coaches, there's a lot of entrepreneurs. They found that now I can use AI and I can ask questions. So for example, how do I come up with my brand? How do I do marketing? A lot of questions that we used to ask Google, now we're asking AI. So I'm curious, as a brand strategist, I'm sure you see a lot of people who's coming to you. Well, this is what AI is telling me. This is what AI had taught me to. So what's your take in terms of using the AI and finding our brand? Is it shortening the time period or is it making it more tedious, longer? What's your take on this?
That is such a great question. And when AI first came out, and I think it was about a year ago, and I was like, oh, the hell to the hell to the hell no. There is no way, no how, no way, no how, no. I wish you could have seen how anti-AI I was, like just completely no. And I started playing around with it and I'm like, oh, it's just the worst copywriter. And believe me, I work with it so much and it has this formula that it's like, we're not just a church, we're a community. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's like copywriting like a high school or anyways. So I was like, absolutely not. And so I was like, this is not good copy at all. And so I do a little bit of everything. I'm a brand strategist in marketing. I'm also a copywriter, also a designer, also a website designer. So one of the things is I get to see all the different parts and pieces, how they all fit together, which is what makes me not a great brainstormer. So, because I'm immediately thinking, how does that ripple through everything? Anyways, so I was looking at AI And then I was starting to think about it in terms of giving me something to react to, right? But still, like the quality, the output was still just so marginal. You remember when Apple first came out with Siri and it was supposed to be able to give you directions and then it wouldn't, and you would be like in a lost and on a business trip in Miami and it's backfiring and you start getting mad at it like a person.
Like a maniac.
Yeah. And you're just like, this is just not right. Yeah. But I started to think about it in terms of this way of being able to give you something to react to. And then I think about how starting a business truly is such tender work, right? So I know you, lady, if I called you for your opinion on something, you would for sure give me your opinion, right? And you would give it to me and you'd be nice and everything about it, but you would give me your honest opinion. But when you find yourself as an entrepreneur, did you used to have a corporate job before you started your business too?
I work for a corporate world.
That's right. I forgot about this.
And it burned me out.
Does everyone know about Michelle has a whole double life, you guys? Yeah. So when you're corporate, if you need pens, you can just go down to a place and get pens. Then you start your own business and no one's asking you for your advice, but you're out there giving your advice, right? And it all of a sudden changes. It just changes the playing field and
the way that we think. Yeah, everything.
Yes. And then you're all of a sudden supposed to magically understand how to create messaging and how to create and become a copywriter. And then you also have to become a designer. And then, we haven't told you the best. You got to become like a consumer psychologist on top of that. So, oh my God, it's like, oh my God, and I see people come in with such uninformed optimism and then literally deflate like a balloon. And it's hard to reinflate. You feel like you've sort of almost been tricked in a way. And talking positively about yourself is so difficult. And then talking positively about yourself in a way that's connected to your business, in a way that's meaningful to a customer, in a way that's going to actually get them to buy from you is like a skill. I've been doing this since I was 6 years old, as you know.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing this for decades, literally. And there are times like I'm really good, but there are times that things I do don't work. And so it is such tender work. So then I started to think about the best places to be when you're doing on this journey is where are those places of emotional safety where you can really be vulnerable. And I think about the community where we met each other, like that's a sacred space like that. And then I started to think about AI is really that too. It's completely unconditional. It thinks you're really just absolutely aces. It's like, you're the best, and it's like, you're so smart. And it wants to do a good job for you. So, and I thought, I wonder if I could start incorporating this because when I would work in my courses, like if you were writing brand positioning, we would write that. You'd have to write it, And so I thought, could I figure out a way to keep on refining and refining and refining the questions to get it to places almost behave like it sort of follows how I'd like to do things, like with my branding process and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really comes down to 3 things. Having the right mindset with ChatGPT, having the right setup, and then just figuring out the right questions to ask. And I say figuring out. So the first thing is to your mindset around ChatGPT, because we were talking before we started recording about how people distrust it so much. And I remember when it first came out, people in my mastermind were like, oh my God, it did this and this and this. And I'm like, how do you know it's even making good suggestions? Because it does not have critical thinking skills. It can't analyze, it can summarize. So to ask it to be strategic is, like asking a baby to drive all of a sudden. You're just like, hey, could you do that? And it's just like, I have no idea because there are these human attributes and it feels like a human, but it is still not a human. It was so funny. One of my students in my cohort was like, oh my God, it loves to use the word embark. And I'm like, oh, I know. And it can be so dramatic. Because it's just trying to guess at what is emotion. So emotion is like this, but elevated. So
yeah. Mine always tell me, unblock this, unblock that, unblock everything.
Unleash. Yeah. I'm just like,
unleash.
One of my best prompts is like, can you please reframe that? Like I'm telling this to a stranger I'm meeting at a conference, because you would never say, unleash. I'm going to help you unleash. Not an avalanche of sales. I don't even know.
Not if you're Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins always use unleash. So yeah, she's going to walk in. I'm going to unleash you.
I always think like when it tries to be funny, I'm just like, did somebody just give you the last 3 seasons of like a Disney, The Sweet Life with Zach and Cody off the Disney Channel? It's so bad. Anyways, so you have to change your mindset around it because it's still not easy. And I also don't trust it. So the way that I would describe your relationship with ChatGPT is like trying to learn an instrument, or you're like trying to learn like a new game of cards, like the competitive card game or something. It's going to take a while for you to pick up the nuances and the tips and tricks before you actually get it straight. Mm-hmm. And so just give yourself the time because it's still a little punky sometimes. And sometimes you can be having a great collaboration with it. And then it all of a sudden just becomes really dumb all of a sudden. And you're just like, where'd you go? And so it's still very much like a beta of a beta. And so I just think knowing it, and then it's my goal with my prompts is to get like 80 to 85% first draft. And what that does is that gives you something to react to. Right. And so once you have something to react to, you can be like, no. When I used to run marketing at a big company and people would give me ideas, if it was like, no, that is not the right idea, I was never mad about that. Because usually when it's a no, you're just like, because this is where I want to be. So it usually makes things a lot faster from that perspective. Yeah. But you can definitely get caught up in the nuance of it and get frustrated with it, too. So, but yeah, like I think about if you had no starting point and you just tried to figure out, oh, okay, I'm going to do my own brand positioning, for instance. I can't say it's going to do a good job for you because I just don't trust it that way. But if I tell it, hey, I want to work with you like a branding strategist, and I want you to give it to me like this, 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 and this. Make sure you tell me about this and this, because I know those things are helpful, right? So it might not know that. At the end of the day, it's just sort of guessing, too. I mean, I guess we all are, but I think it's just really understanding that it's nuanced and it is going to get better, but it's still not great. So give it some time and don't trust it completely. So that's what I say with the mindset.
What tips do you have in terms of like for someone who have no idea of where to go to?
So the next thing, you want it to tell it how you want it to behave. And so I'm using my chat GPT for marketing and branding. And that's awesome, right? But I'm training it to be that for me. And so there are custom instructions that I use that almost immediately start to up level your overall output. Now you need to be on ChatGPT 4 to have these custom instructions, but they really up level the output and will help a little bit like start to frame things up in a way that the things that are hard for people to talk about is positively about themselves, how they create real impact, and then what is that transformation they deliver. And so there are just some ways that in those custom instructions that I'm always like, it's going to be along the lines of like, hey, really all the copy you write really has to balance the emotional features and the functional features of my offer that lead people to purchase. Please liberally use so you can or similar statements. So I'm really clear on the transformation I deliver. And so then it's going to serve something up for you and you're going to be like, yes, oh, I never knew how to say that. Or yeah, wow, that gives me another idea. I'm going to modify it. And this is it. This is it. Or you're going to be like, no, what? Duh. And then you're going to be like, no, I want this instead. And then you're eventually going to get there. So those are sort of the three scenarios. It hits it out of the park. You get like a base hit, the second one, and then you get run into someone does something, then you get to get a run into home. Yeah. Or you just get struck out and you're just like, oh no, I'm going to be at bat again. So those sort of the three scenarios. So the custom instructions will be a game changer, a great starting point. And then the second is ChatGPT allows us to create our own GBTs. And so I created one called Brand GBT. And you can have like the most detailed custom instructions, unlimited. And that has been like very good, like very good. Where I'm just like, it's sort of like, remember when you used to have an iPod and a phone? Yeah. And then I remember thinking like, oh, I just wish I could get all my music on my phone. And then you have it. Yeah. I just remember thinking like, I just wish I could have just my own little ChatGPT that only talks about branding. And then they're like, you can have that. So I also created that too. So I'll share that with your group too. It's going to give you a tighter, if you're ever wondering like, what is it like working with me? It really does like replicate my process. So it gives you but that means people should not buy my courses and things like that, of course, but I'm teasing. It's going to really replicate how I approach branding and brand positioning and getting people ready for things like that too. So it's pretty cool. Things are changing so quickly. But with anything, it's not about having the right answers. It's really about asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm. And you need an expert who's already gone through and done the process with you, right? And just walk you through all these tedious steps. I remember when I first exposed to ChatGPT, I was sitting there and trying to figure out, okay, so what prompts do I give it? And how do I make it better? So I was in the training mode with my ChatGPT and building a relationship with it. And so I called it Chatty. So I found out Chatty actually has voice command now. And Chatty has this beautiful, amazing male voice that I can talk to. And he actually has a lot of, filler words. He actually used filler words. So he needs to be in Toastmasters. But anyway, but you do need an expert to walk you through and guide you. I do want to respect your time. And I know that you do have something exciting coming up in December.
I do have something exciting coming on. Yes. And to your point of being able to use it and refine it, it's like, you just want to make sure like it's going to feel resonant with you too. The thing that I think would be hard is I know what good brand positioning looks like, and I know what not good brand positioning looks like. And when I'm like, oh no, Chatty, you're being naughty. Like that's not good brand positioning. Like go back to the instructions. I think about an entrepreneur who's like a veterinarian who teaches people how to make their dogs better on leashes. They're not like, oh, I am a branding expert. I just think like sitting there deciding, is this good? You know what I mean? That's what I think is probably the riskiest part about it because it doesn't really know. And then all the data it gets is from still a little outdated too. So yes, Michelle, I do have something amazing coming up.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I know. I'm so excited. And this is literally going to make me 100% do it. So this is even more exciting. So thank you for that. Is that I'm doing a live 3-day challenge, December 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's called the AI Brand Camp. And it's going to be an introduction into ChatGPT and using it to help you create a really amazing, super strategic brand positioning. It's good. People are just like, oh my gosh, it's all the things I felt like I couldn't say, all the things, because I've just spent 6 months perfecting these prompts. Then we're going to identify who your most valuable customers are, their pain points, the transformation you deliver. You are going to know these people inside and out, and that helps with your overall messaging. And then we get an offer in line to bring to market. Believe me, people start businesses without this. And I'm like, how? Those are the people that been for like a few years and then they get traction sort of 3 to 5 years in. Allows you to get traction right away. So if it's anyone who's interested in AI, I know I need a brand, but I have no idea. For some reason, I just completely trust this Heather Campbell lady. Brands are so solid. They're so helpful. You know what I mean? Like people are starting to become a little more savvy about brands.
Yeah.
And then you can get one in like 3 days. And what I'm delivering over 3 days is work that if people hire me in my agency, I charge a lot of money for it. You could buy a good used car or you could hire me. And it takes weeks. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to do all of this work. Do it in 3 days. So my goal is to help people use AI to get really, really good brands and really, really good marketing and really, really good websites really, really fast. And that's where I think it's the best. In that collaboration between you and AI, that's going to be just awesome. Yeah.
I think the biggest transformation or values that I hear is it used to be people spending a lot of time and effort trying to nail their niche, finding their avatar. And you're able to do this with the help of AI, and you can help them to narrow it down and figure this out in 3 days. That to me is so valuable just by itself and just by listening to it, because I know so many people are struggling to position themselves in the market. And just by having that first step, it opens up a whole new door of opportunity. So you don't have to feel like you have to sign up a year-end program in order to like just to find what you need to get started.
No. And the thing is too, think about how I use the term most valuable customer versus customer avatar. Right there is like one of those like small distinctions of working with someone who's been doing this for a really long time. I just have always used that term because not all customers are created equal. It gives you this beautiful centering place where you have so much clarity and so much context. And then that gives you that excitement. And then just being able to feel confident stepping forward and doing something where you're like, I have an actual strategy behind this, and it wasn't even scary to get to it. And that's the idea, is that you can really fast track that, because believe me, I get a lot of business from people who've been in business for 5 to 7 years and they have done well, but they've never done this work formally. And we just sort of retrofit. It's really mind blowing, but that's the kind of stuff that the best brands do over and over and over again. We really think about Tiffany or Louis Vuitton, or the Gap is way more my speed, like the Gap.
I love
the Nike
Gap.
store. Yeah, I do too.
Yes, functional.
Well, I love Gap because I can go in and I know exactly what size jeans I wear, and I don't like trying on clothes, and they're so consistent. It's not sexy, but it is the key to a really good brand, because that's what allows people to have that long-term relationship with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So where can we sign up to that live 3-day?
Well, go to weekendwebsite.ai/AI brand camp. And it is going to be fun. It is going to be fast. It is not for the faint of heart. But the thing is it takes maybe 5 minutes to be. You were witness to somebody actually going through one of the brand positioning. So what would you say, Michelle, from someone who had seen it for the first time last week?
The word that comes up to my head is magic. It's like you're sitting there and you just said, oh my gosh, this is magic. And this is someone who have been struggling, finding the right way to position himself and finding the right words, right? So it's been weeks and months. And to be able to witness that transformation, it was just magic. That's the word that I'm going to use.
We had someone volunteer who just said, I'll do it. Yeah. And he just had this completely expansive, just you could see it, his head just being like,
mind blown.
Yeah. Things he did not know. He was like, this was here. I just had no idea how to get it out there. And so if you like to have epiphanies that work in a positive way, that completely change everything for you, this is for you. Yeah.
Yep. I will definitely link the registration page to the episode. And Heather, I am just having a blast. I feel like I can talk to you forever and ever. I wish you could.
I could too. I know. I'm going to come out to California.
Yes, please do.
Yes, I know. I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity to come and chat with you. I think you are fantastic energy, smart person, fun and funny, effective, changing the world. My favorite combination, all of those things together.
Thank you, Heather. You are my role model. I look up to you, your branding, everything that you do. I got my eyes on you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, honey. I received that.
All right, Heather, thank you so much for coming to the show. And those of you who are listening, I would love for you to check out Heather's website and make sure to register on her 3-day live AI brand camp. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to Make It Visible podcast. If you love this episode and want deeper support for your coaching business, head over to elevatelifecoaching.org and see how we can partner together to turn your passion into a profitable business. I help female coaches launch and scale their coaching business faster than ever without wasted time and money, filling the gaps in your marketing strategies, creating a simple and easy to follow system so you can accelerate on the path of coaching business that you love to wake up to. Head over to elevatelifecoaching.org and grab a free strategy audit today.